Hello everybody and welcome to another Rover 45 Beatrix video. A somewhat untimely one that I wasn't expecting to make, but this is the thing with modern classics. You do a little job, then you mostly have months of reliability, and then something else crops up. It's always the way. These are rolling restorations. They're never complete and never finished, but they're never far off, are they, if you keep on top of it. And I think with especially this car, excuse me, take all these off, I have been very busy with the old wire drill, as you can imagine, because thanks to a very lovely chap called Darren, thank you very much my friend, who has sent me a second-hand good coolant pipe for the back of the K series. I am now able to get this car hopefully ready and watertight again, and we have a new cap as well. So I'm going to show you what I've just been doing yesterday just to prepare the car. As you can see, the car may be a little bit higher than usual. That is because I've put it on ramps today, and the idea of getting on ramps is for a very logical reason. But a massive shout out to Darren, because Darren is exactly what the Rover community is all about. I will make sure that I pay my dividends to Darren at some point, because it needs to be done. That is what the Rover community is about, helping each other, and I don't feel that there are many other communities that can compare. It is such a niche and small community where people will help each other out, and really it isn't for monetary gain. Most people do things because they just care, and I will make sure that my friend is very well compensated for basically helping me get Beatrix back on the road, because I was due to do a car show tomorrow. That might happen, it might not happen, we'll see, depending on how today goes. So let's get stuck in there. Right, I've got my box of gubbins on the floor, and as I say, we've got the car on ramps. That is a very good reason for that, because I wanted to drain the system and leave it overnight. So yesterday I came to the car, disconnected the battery for safety obviously, took out the airbox. You just, while the bolts won't come out because it's actually stuck against the battery, but that bolt is with the airbox. You just take off that strap off here, and you've got a lot more access. Now the coolant pipe in question stops here. It leads to the bottom hose, the hose that goes into the bottom of the radiator. Now what I've done is, I've still got some antifreeze lying around here, is I've tilted the engine slightly backwards. So basically what will happen when I take the feed from this tank, which is down here, it's this pipe here, you see this pipe that's wigging around, that should be connected to the actual coolant rail. Now I do apologise in this video because you're not going to see a very good deal, because I'm not taking the inlet manifold off, I'm not disturbing anything else, which makes this job a little bit of a faff. But if you go by what I'm going to tell you to do, it's really easy. Now there's a couple of things I've already done. So I've got a little pry bar and took off this wiring that goes off the side onto the coolant rail. What I am going to do now is also get this wiring block connector away. Come on, pull it out. Come on. This might take a bit of faffing to get off. There we go, done. You just have to keep pulling that tab out and it will release the whole wiring loom. Now I'm just going to tuck that there. Okay, so we're out the way. So now we've got this pipe that goes over the top. Now this is the heater pipe, by the way. This is like your heater bypass pipe. Now just make sure that that is nice and loose, because that's going to stay in situ. Okay, now the other 2 pointers I cannot show you from this side of the car, so we're going to go to the bottom side and I'll show you what I've been doing underneath. It's very simple, but in situ with the inlet manifold in the way, it's a faff. Now some people would say it'd be easier to change the inlet manifold and obviously remove it and then change the gasket. I've already changed the gasket for a proper Vitron one. I don't need to get it off again, and I don't want the faff, to be honest. Most of the system has been drained out because obviously I took that bottom pipe off the back of the rail, so all of it's come out, and well, most of it anyway. And I've just managed to, just to reduce the mess when I take this pipe off here, I've just given this a bit of a squeeze and a bit of a see it's nice and loose now. That is because I've taken a couple of bolts out, and I'll show you which ones. Okay, this is the fender in question. Okay, now what we have here, now that's where the back feed to the coolant rail goes in. Okay, take that out and all the antifreeze just came gushing out. Okay, and most of it from the radiator as well, well, some of it anyway. Now what we have here is a wiring loom with a couple of clips. What you got to do is disconnect this wiring loom from the rail. You've just got to pry these clips out. You will break them, but I'm going to replace those clips with something else potentially once I've got a bit more access, probably with cable ties. The problem is with these clips is you can't really replace them, but I'm going to try and make sure the wiring loom is secure as possible. We've got the crankshaft position sensor down here, which also sort of piggybacks off the wiring loom. And we've got the knock sensor again that goes from this wiring loom. I'm trying to show you as best as I possibly can. Now, as you can see here, this is where the leak was coming from, just about here. Okay, it was just around here. Okay, now that actually has dried up quite nicely, but yeah, that's where it was leaking from. It's just a very minute leak. And we're going to take the whole thing out now, and right, so basically you've got two bolts, one here, 10mm here, and another 10mm, oh, let me find it, is over there. Okay, so you've got a 10mm there, here, and a 10mm here. Now doing that from the back side of the engine is quite difficult, but you can do it, I can assure you. So we've released all of that. We are in a position to wiggle it from the thermostat housing. Now this pipe just goes over the seal of the thermostat housing. There's nothing wrong with that, I can assure you. So I'm going to try, now you've seen the back side, go from the top side and try and pull it out. Now what you need is a 6mm. You can use a spanner, but I'm just going to use this. There we go, nice and loose. But the idea is once this pipe is free, we should be mostly free. There is a tab just here, which this wiring loom sits on. Again, there's just, I'm gonna have to cut that. In fact, I have cut that, sorry, I completely forgot. So there we go, you see I've cut the cable tie to this sort of bracket that comes off the coolant rail. Okay, so these are just things that you've got to have to do. Unfortunately, things are never going to be quite the same because these cable tie things are not, well, I'll see what I can do to secure these this wiring loom, but not massively. Yeah, just gonna loosen that a bit more. Come on, there we go. Right, I've broken the bond. Lovely. Bit of spillage down there, but it should be able to. Ah, got it. Right, what I've just done is I've pulled the actual rail out of the thermostat housing. Let me just, I think there's been a bit more. Yeah, there's been a bit of coolant spillage. Let's just check that everything is good at the back. Just double check, guys, because you don't want anything from hitting. Yeah, it's come out. Yeah, it's disconnected from the thermostat housing. And now you can just pull it up. Just be very careful. So pull it up this way, guys. Okay, be very, very careful indeed. Right, that took some manoeuvring. So basically what's happened is I've had to go around the back of the engine. You cannot physically get that pipe that way. You have to take it down at the back of the engine. So I've got my hand on the pipe. What you've got to do is disconnect the knock sensor wiring, and then you can take this pipe and try and feed it past all this wiring very, very gently. This is the core of the wiring here. Now it's just this bracket that's holding me back, but I'm just gonna pull that through. Okay, it's going through slowly, don't, just be gentle, take your time. There we go, done. There we go, it's gone through. There we go, all the way through and down the other side to be greeted by my hand. Yeah, come on. There we go, done. that's going to be, I'm sure that's going to be an interesting experiment to get back in. Now, this is the area that it was leaking from. So basically, it was leaking from around this point here. That's interesting because that looks absolutely fine to me. In fact, this pipe doesn't look bad at all. It's a bit funny on that side. Yeah, it doesn't look brilliant. I have to say, what the heck is all that in there? Sludge. Now, these pipes are very common for rusting all the way out, and it doesn't look bad, but why is it leaking? I mean, that is where it was leaking from in the location. That's weird. I think this needs further investigating, because where it was sitting on the car like that, it virtually sits like that. That's the leak was coming from around here. Okay, I'm going to just double check. Now, there's another thing that's coming today that I've got to wait to turn up, and that is the thermostat housing seal, which I did not replace before. Yeah, I'm just going to investigate down there just to make sure that it's in good condition, but I'm going to change it anyway. Yeah, I'm just having a look up here, and that thermostat housing seal, I'm going to try and get that off. Try and get that off with a pick if I can. Come on. Just use a pick to get it off. There we go. Do you know what? This looks flat. Flat as a bleeding pancake. Do you know something? I've got a feeling it's not my pipe leaking. I think it was this. Anyway, I have got a newer one coming, and that pipe doesn't look particularly great. But what I have got coming, guys, is obviously the one that Darren has sent me, and I'm awaiting its arrival very, very soon. And it's in much better condition than the one that's just come off the car, I can assure you. Now, I'm just going to clean up and prepare the new one. Right, I've just taken another better look at this again. So basically, inside here, this is where it was leaking from. Right, look at the other side. Can you see that in there? I've just, look at that, loss of metal. Very, very minutely on that side. There you go. Well, that's not a scrap job. Some people say you could put liquid filler in that or weld it, but in truth, it's just going to leak from another place. I mean, the second-hand one I've got coming, it is in much better condition than that. So, yes, that is unfortunately going to go into the bin of shame. Oh, no, not quite. Where's my 10 mil? Don't want to forget that. There we go. Always good to have another one of these bleed screws. And now it goes in the bin of shame. I've not done this in a while. Shame, 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 shame. Yeah, well, we know that this is probably not the culprit, but still, this is just not good. Okay, I'm going to put that in there for now, but I'm just going to clean up around the back. But overall, I don't want to disturb this hose down here, because this hose is full of water down there, so it's ready to slosh out at any given notice. But hopefully I can get the new pipe up the backside, bring it up, bring it round, try and get it on to go, because it's under this branch of wiring here. This is where you've got to be very, 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 very careful. Very, 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 very careful. Did I say very, very, very careful? I think this must be one of the most faffy jobs I've done on this car so far. Ideally, I mean, if I'd have had my wits about myself, I might have actually replaced this pipe when I had the whole inlet manifold off in the first place, but I had spent so much money on the head gasket and everything. I mean, over £2,000. I mean, I had to cut corners somewhere. Well, not cut corners, but I had to sort of say, well, it's not leaking now, so I'm not going to replace it. And I think otherwise, if you don't apply that sort of logic to any sort of car restoration recommission, then you're going to get yourself into serious debt and financial issues. It is all about the car being as functional as possible. But anyway, I just want to bring your attention to this new cap. This cap has come, it's a genuine X-Part cap, and it fits perfectly. Right, that stops. That is literally stopped. I can't turn that anymore. Right, the one before you could. This one, the dodgy one. Okay, with this, it's got a blue seal on it. Okay, now I'm not saying all these are dodgy, but right, look at that. There we go, it's just jumped. There we go, look, and it's jumped again. It just won't thread. Yeah, it won't thread, so that's going in the bin of shame as well. 2 in 1 minute. Shame, shame, shame. Right, okie dokie, a few hours later, I've got the airbox back out. We've got the old seal and we've got the new one that has just arrived. I can feel that, that's a lot thicker than that, that's just being crushed. You've got to fit a new one, it's really imperative. But thank you so much, Darren. It looks a bit neater than the time you sent it to me. I've just given it a nice little bit of rust killing and gloss black. It's not the best finish in the world, but this is a solid pipe. I mean, if we just look inside, yeah, that's a lot better. I've put some rust killer straight into that pipe so that it will just kill the rust internally, but that is a really good pipe, and that's ready to go on. Now, I just want to point a few things out just before we install it. Now, obviously, it's going to go in, it sits in like that, okay? So that end there, that end there, that goes straight into the thermostat housing, and this seal actually, oh, I've got to get that, it actually sits on the thermostat housing kind of there. If you see there, it's just sitting on the lip there. Now, I've got a feeling the reason it might have been leaking is because water was actually getting into a place where it shouldn't have been, because this seal wasn't very good. I should have replaced it when I did disturb it, because I had to change. I changed the thermostat. One of the first jobs I actually did on this car was change the thermostat. So ideally, yes, I should have changed the seal. But nevertheless, that old pipe was just so corroded it was untrue. There's a couple of things to note. Obviously, that's a 10mm and a 10mm. Okay, that's where the wiring connects, and that's also where the wiring connects. What I'm going to do, because the wiring loom, the way it sits in the car, obviously, I just put it back over here for clarity. Okay. Now, the wiring loom that goes underneath there, it sits on the top of this, okay? Now, obviously, that is the feed from the tank, this pipe here, okay, that goes straight into there and feeds this whole pipe, and then feeds the bottom radiator, and then the radiator starts filling up, and then it fills up this section here, and it starts filling up the block just a little bit, okay? That's how the system is filled up. Now, the part of the system that won't be filled up is the heating part of the system, because actually it won't get to that mostly anyway. But anyway, so the wiring loom sits on the top. What I'll do, I'll put a cable tie through there and a cable tie through there. In terms of this, yes, there's going to be another cable tie that goes through this part of the bracket, which kind of just supports this piece here, because this bracket goes just under this piece here, okay? So there's just a couple of things to note, and obviously that one there is for this clip here that is still intact, this fir tree clip. So I think the best thing to do is get down the back of the engine and start hooking this through. This is not going to be an easy job. I might actually try and angle it backwards, but this is going to be a faff, and something I not necessarily show you on camera, but you've got to try and just angle it up and then bring it through this gap where my hand is down here, because it's going to sit this side of the hose, so it's going to come through that gap. So you've got to try and lift this wire loom up gently, please, and then we can fit it in. Okay, now bear this in mind here. So GT85, lubricate this please, okay, because you're never going to get it to go over. Just put the torch up there so you can see. I've got to get my hand around this blasted gearbox. If you could see what I'm doing. Just take a few attempts this, so doing it one-handed, the flipping one-handed mechanic is, oh there we go, oh it's gone on. Well that was easier than I thought. Right, now the top tip here is I'm going to put some red rubber grease on top of it. Where's that gone? There we go. See how it's holding up so well underneath. I'm gobsmackingly impressed with this car. Really, I should have done some sort of high temperature silver on this exhaust. It would make it look rather nice. So what I'm going to do is, I don't want this seal to get pinched in any way. I mean, to be fair, GT85 is probably a good option, but when this pipe goes over, I don't want it to be pinched in any way, so I want it to go over with ease. Okay, there you go. That's just a smear. Now, that's fantastic. Just wipe my hands down there. Oh god, this is a painful exercise. Right, so what we're aiming to do is we're going to get the pipe up here through that gap there. Now you've got to mind this blooming knock sensor and crankshaft position sensor wire. Now what I'm going to do is try and hook that up there. There we go, done, out the way. Now I'm going to try and see if I can aim this through. This is where it gets really tight, and I'm afraid I will have to stop the camera for a second. Yeah, okay, I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to go around to the top side. Right, that's had some manoeuvring. I've got the pipe on this side. It does take a lot of faffing around down here just to get it in place. The important thing is to take your time and make sure that you're not bashing or crimping any wires. I mean, look at that. Look at that connector down there. That looks very vulnerable. That's the knock sensor wire, which has somehow decided it doesn't want to stay up. There we go. Now I'm just going to push that wire that way. Okay. Okay, so I think for now you've got to try and push it. So this bracket here, right? This bracket, okay, is in the right position now. It's kind of sitting where it should be. The pipe's a bit leering to the left and right, but we got it in and the wiring is where we need it to be, and that's really important, that nothing has been crimped or damaged in any way. Now we're in a position where we need to shove this pipe this way over the top of the thermostat housing seal. Okay, so remember this wire has to go over the top, don't get it caught. Now if you're struggling to move that, you see, for some reason that's actually caught. Oh no, it's not. It's alright. So if it's struggling to move in any way, just go backwards. But anyway, what I want to do is get that over the top. Done. Yeah, lovely. Lovely. I think I've disturbed some more blooming antifreeze dropping on my leg. There we go. Oh, just make sure that's it. No, it's not quite in, because you see those holes aren't lined up, so we need to push it further this way, but we've got it roughly into place. Okay, so that's good. The wiring's good. Yeah. Right, let's go back to the top. I've got a top tip actually about taking this bottom hose off. Don't undo the two 10mm bolts holding the rail to the block until you've pulled that hose off, because I found that out earlier today. That's my top tip. Always keep things in situ. There we go. Lovely. I just put that the blooming Jubilee clip has come completely off its worm drive. That's all right, I'll just screw that back in a second. Again, that's good. That bracket is sitting right under the wiring. It's gone round the corner nicely. Lovely. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just going to put those knock sensor and crankshaft position sensor wires back in, and now we've got to go back round to the other side again. Okay, so we can see now clearly the bolt holes. I'll just get one of my bolts. Yep, it lines up very, very nicely. And that's when you know that the pipe has gone right onto that seal, that thermostat housing, when you can line these bolts in by hand. And this one is going in, oh, that's going in really nicely. Yeah, lovely, fantastic. Just do it by hand as much as possible, because using a spanner, a socket in this area is really, really not fun. Unfortunately, I'm having to bend my neck to see. Do forgive that if the camera is not showing you exactly what I'm doing. And again, put the other bolt in, the other one. There's another bracket just over here. Look, that's not sitting. Yep, that's not sitting fully down. There we go, done. See, it's very possible to do all this in situ, but you have to be determined to basically be very careful of the wiring. I shan't say too much until I try and start the car and then find out the car doesn't start because I've broken a bloody wire. Here we go, nice and snug. Not overly tight, just snug, guys. Just to secure the pipe against the block. Lovely, fantastic. Now what we can do, we can plug this crankshaft position sensor back in, and the knock sensor wiring goes here. They just hang down, lovely. So what I'll do, where's my bolt gun? Come on, go in, go in, go in. There we go, lovely. This has to be tight, guys. Okay, just have it nice and tight. Okay, so this is the feed pipe that comes down. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put that back round. I just popped it round it. There we go. It should go over that side. And then put this Jubilee clip over the top. Which way do I want it facing? I'm going to tighten it from the bottom, because I think it's a bit easier to tighten that from the bottom side, because it's impossible because the inlet manifold's in the way. So there's no way you're going to do that. So I'd rather just pop that back on. And these keep falling off all the time, these. There's a few of these on the car. I'll work out how to reroute that in the future, but as far as I'm concerned, that pipe is in the correct place, and I'm just going to get a screwdriver on that. Yep, done. Okay, that is nice and secure now. So yeah, okay, just do a little bit of cleaning up, but I think we're done at the bottom end. I must tell you guys, be very careful of the crankshaft position sensor wiring. You don't want to break that in this process. This blooming gear cable is doing my head in. It's always in the way. This gearbox is so bulky, it's untrue. Brilliant. Right, I need to go to the top side again after I've done a little bit of cleaning, and we should be okay. Obviously, securing the wiring loom, I'll do that right after all of this, but I just want to secure everything up the top side first. Lovely. Lovely, nice and secure, and nothing's chafing. This is where you've got to check that nothing is chafing, hoses and electrics included. Anyway, next job, probably the hardest thing on a K series, filling very, very slowly. Goodness me, I swear I must be married to this stuff. This was what was left of my bottle when I last did the coolant on Beatrix. When I did the expansion tack and obviously the faulty cap, and this I've had hanging around for ages, which was I just need a contract for coolant because I've got Ruby, you know, doing the same to me, and then this. So this better blooming work, I'll tell you, because it gets awfully expensive with coolant when you start having consistent leaks. Now everything's back on, double check please. Then you fill extremely slowly, because bleeding the air out of a K series does take time. If you do get it wrong, do not slosh it in, please. Right, so I kept on checking there just to make sure there's no leaks, and I can't see any leaks. Now, that's quite high, but there's not enough coolant in the system, and I know that. And that's because even through slow filling, there will be air. We need to purge the air. So have a rag down here, please. This is what this bleed screw is on the rail, okay? Rover put it there for a reason. And all you need to do is unscrew it. There will be some air. Again, take it out, you'll hear air, and as soon as coolant comes out, so if I just undo this, you might hear some air. Nope, it's leaking coolant, which means a mess. Good, that means we have no air as far as this system is concerned. However, there might still be some air. So the next thing I would suggest is just cleaning this up. I'm going to have to clean this up again, make sure there's no coolant everywhere, because when we actually start the car up, or pressure test it at least, we don't want any of this hanging around, because it will make me think, oh, have I got a leak? That's the important thing when you're testing for coolant leaks. Make sure you mop up whatever's happened before, because you won't know if you've got a new one. So that's quite important, that is. So there you go. Now I would suggest is just squeeze this hose. Hear that? It's just been a bit of purged air in the system. It will go down that. In fact, what I'll do is squeeze the top hose as well, just to give it some pressure, because if you squeeze this hose, the pressure will go through the radiator, through the bottom hose, and then through the rail back into the tank. So that's what you're doing. You're just purging a little bit. And keep doing this process over and over and over again, and then hopefully we'll get somewhere, and I'll cut back to when that is filled and I've bled all the air out. Just keep doing it and do it slowly. This is a very slow process. Okay, airbox back on, battery connected, and we'll start this up and get it off the ramp. I've bled as much air out of that system as possible, and it looks like a decent amount of coolant has gone in, so I'm pretty happy. If you see a certain amount of coolant come out, if you drain one of these engines and you see quite a bit of coolant, probably more than a few litres. I mean, we can overestimate sometimes or underestimate, but we have a rough idea of how much coolant has generally come out of a system. And if you're looking at the bottle that you're trying to fill from and you think, I haven't used much fluid, and yet it's up to the top, you've got air 100%. Trust me. Anyway, let's get this thing back on. There's no leaks whatsoever. I've just been under for the last time, cleaned up, done everything, all the clips back in place. That's it, done. Now I'm just going to keep an eye on the temperature of this thing and monitor what's going on under the bonnet. Remember, there's no cap on at the moment. I'm going to shut the cap on, the new cap on, I'm just going to let the system get to pressure, get hot, check for leaks, and then start bleeding the air. It's a very slow process, got to do it over and over again. We'll see how this goes. Need to do something about that drive plate in the future. It's too annoying. I mean, they never break, but it's too annoying now. Black cap. Straight on. Good. Lovely. Okay, just been tidying away all my stuff. And, right, so the coolant hasn't quite dropped yet. Yeah, that's hot. Nope, the thermostat has not opened yet because this whole pipe, I'll just put my hand behind to feel the pipe. Nope, definitely not. It's not leaking, I can't see anything at the moment, which is good. Very good indeed. But that pipe and that bottom hose is still cold. So the thermostat has not opened whatsoever. No. It's just below the middle. Okay, that's when the thermostat definitely hasn't opened. You'll know when it's open, it will drop considerably. Oh, let's just listen to a lovely K series. All this dirt was from when it overflowed. There is some dirt still in the system. So, there is nothing more sweeter than that. It just gives a little burst of induction air sound when you just blip it. Just that, just a little blip. Anyway, enough of that. No, definitely not. I think the thermostat is starting to open up. I can feel that. Right, this is getting boring. A few minutes later, and I think we've got enough fluid in. It's just come down a little bit. Thermostat's open, but the fact is it hasn't come down by much, which indicates I've got a lot of air out before we did this, which is good. And that's nice and warm. That's nice and warm. And we have absolutely no leaks down there. I can guarantee you, no leaks at all. Fantastic, brilliant. And do you know what? There's no sign of any air. I'll tell you what, I'll rev the car, a little bit out the expansion, but that is nice and smooth. There's no air in that. The cap is doing its job. Fantastic, brilliant. Oh yes, there you go. And if you haven't noticed one particular thing, I have a GoPro. If you haven't noticed, the camera work is a little bit higher quality. So I'm just getting used to this thing. But anyway, guys, what a lovely, nice exercise this has been. Bit of cleaning, bit of improving, a nice, fresh looking cooling rail. Second hand, but sometimes second hand is the best. Anyway, thank you so much, Dan. Thank you so much for giving this. The Rover community, lovely as always, and has kept this back on the road. And hopefully, the next episode, you'll see me at a meet. Fantastic. But for me and Beatrix, take care, guys. You stay safe. And you know your system is up to pressure as a last note when you do this. Yes, perfect. The system holds pressure. Lovely.